Hi, welcome everyone. Those of you with just a little bit of common sense will understand what I'm going to say. Let's call these cubes, whether they are or not. They turn right or left these um, from the ends of their craft. The red light will bring the craft left, vice versa, depending on each side. Colors in a fire. Let's talk about that real quickly. The color inside a flame becomes yellow, orange, and finally red. The further you reach from the center of the flame, the lower the temperature will be. This is for a fire, of course. The red portion is around 1070 kelvins, 800 degrees Celsius. The orange, yellow, and red colors in a flame do not only relate to color temperature, but that's with oxygen and on Earth. Now, how come we're seeing fires on the moon? And I have proof that I'm seeing fires on the moon if there's no oxidizer, enough oxygen. Microgravity, they say, would have weak blue flames. Why are there explosions on the moon? Because there's oxygen. The moon's getting brown, they said. In space, they say, of course, you can't have any fires because there isn't any oxidizer. Oxygen. You need O2 gas for combustion process to be possible. So they say. Now, we're not talking about the space station because it's different. They have the same mixture as the oxygen on Earth. So, of course, the flame would react differently. However, they say because gravity is millions of times weaker in space, an open flame behaves significantly different. In space, where there's weaker gravity, they call it microgravity, there's no updraft and oxygen, so they say it's drawn into the flame through a completely different mechanism. The first thing scientists noticed in space was that the shape of the flame, while on Earth, a fire's flame is elongated, right? Well, in microgravity, in space, and weaker gravity, it's spherical, so they say, more like a fireball. Studying fire in microgravity can render some important practical insight. For decades, engineers have been trying to build internal combustion engines that run on a lean mixture of fuel and oxygen, which should produce something like a flame ball in space. Ooh. So, let's focus on what this is part one of 70,000, okay? Because it's a long explanation. I have lots to explain. There's a thruster. There it's leaving. The intensity of the heat's changing from orange, red, yellow, orange, red. You see it taking off. It's at one point I even see it splitting in two. So now the object is seen as red and then disappears. Here it is close up, but now I have something to show you. Keep your eye on the arrow. This is like another finding, complete other finding. It's going to light up before the UFO reaches the area. Watch real closely. Did you see that? I'm going to show you again. The UFO takes off. I showed you the thrusters. We'll go back to them. But first, there's a thruster. Watch before it touches this point, a light lights up. Like it's following a light across the surface, like it's a beam or something. You know, we say these objects are not just UFOs. Watch again, the light appear before it arrives. Boom. And then it arrives. I often see that connection. I've showed you at least 20 times different captures of the UFOs doing that on the surface. Very odd, aside from seeing fire on the moon, which there should not be in microgravity, because there should not be the possibility of the combustion process occurring. An obvious light system on the moon, and I'm starting to think more and more it's silly not to think that there is, honestly. But odd things happen in space, so they say. They say where gravity loses its grip on solids, liquids, and gases without gravity. Ooh, hot air expands, but doesn't move upwards in space. So they say. They say the flame persists because of the diffusion of oxygen with random oxygen molecules drifting into the fire. Absent the upward flow of hot air gases and fires in microgravity are dome-shaped or spherical and sluggish. Thanks to meager oxygen flow, if you ignite a piece of paper in microgravity, the fire will just slowly creep along the paper, for example, from one end to the other really slowly. Astronauts are all very excited to do our experiments because space fires really do look quite alien. Buggers. Such fires might appear eerily tranquil to people accustomed to the capricious nature of earthly flames, but a flame in space and microgravity can be more tenacious, capable of surviving on less oxygen and burning for longer periods of time. Oh, well, that's an interesting one on the moon. If you look carefully, you'll see hundreds of other lights appearing simultaneously at the same time. As UFOs are lifting up off of the surface, lights are appearing on the surface both before and after they take off. See what we just saw? A light there at the beginning, and then it transfers. See why? See what's going on? Light in one area, a light remains lit up on the surface because it's a launch mechanism. It could be futuristic, it could be experimental, it could be alien. Look at the thrusters. What do you think of that? The fire thrusting on the UFO as it takes off. And you see the massive fires, and then they get smaller as they progress ahead. As you know, not 1,000 people showing thrusters. Crow was one of the best ones that I had seen. The only real video of thrusters. No matter what he thinks, whether he thinks it's alien or not, I don't give a shit. I know that they exist. UFOs definitely exist. There it is, taking off, massive fire on the surface. There it is, thrusting, leaving lights on the surface at the same time. It's some type of mechanism. It's not natural. It's not acting like the UFOs that we've heard over forever, right? No one's ever showed lights touching the surface like that. We even see the shape and form of some of these objects. This is like incredibly large for news and information. That's not it. There's a ghost-like object. Looks like smoke. Looks like there's some kind of chemical reaction inside or fire. Look at the illumination across the bloody planet. There it is. Top left, how far do you think that is from the light? Many miles. And the surface is illuminating at the same time as this object is illuminating. If that doesn't fascinate you, nothing will, because it sure fascinates me. And again, they don't have the same characteristics, right? So the light that I just showed you, the ghost-like object moving around the surface, this one's not the same. And again, before it lifts up, there's a light further away from the object that indicates this light, or however it's doing so, to land or to go over that area. So there's pulsations coming from the surface of the moon that somehow are guiding these lights from point to point to point around the moon. And we're seeing lights and UFOs appearing around those points. Do you think they're inside of the moon? You sure friggin' right they are. They're all inside of the moon, and that's where they're launching from. I don't know how deep they are, but they're definitely leaving the moon. And once they leave, look, they disappear. But why are you seeing the smokes, right? And you're seeing a massive light, which is not really spherical. It's more like spread out, a thin electrical cloud. That's exactly what they look like. Look at them disappear. What do you think of that? They disappear from the surface. How the hell are we going to find them once they disappear? The launch is that massive fire. Look, it's connected to the ground. Forward and backwards here. It's absolutely incredible. You could see the smoke. Wash your screens, turn down the lights. You should be watching this in pitch dark. I should have mentioned it at the beginning of the video. There it is, different intensities, gets very, very bright, and then a smoke is left, and then it disappears. But again, it's fire, okay? It's fire with carbon, right? You're seeing the oranges. There's no filter there. We're seeing orange fires on the surface. What the hell could it be? How can we even think of possibly seeing fires on the moon when there's no combustion there? Wake up, people. Those of you, even if you do own big telescopes and you come by here and say, this guy is full of shit, you're going to have to prove the opposite, because I've showed too many fires on the moon. If there's fire on the moon, there's bloody oxygen on the moon. And that means combustion, the process is occurring. If the combustion process is occurring, there could be vegetation and oxygen in the atmosphere around the moon. It's in Earth's geocorona. It's inside of Earth's atmosphere, the moon. It's sitting inside of Earth's atmosphere. Here are these steps, 1, 2, and 3. You can see here the difference of this powerful, very strong flame, which, by the way, you see smokes and hazes around it. And for a microgravity, they say it's in a vacuum, and you can't have fire in a vacuum. Well, I agree that you can't have fire in a vacuum, but that means the moon's not in a vacuum. Now, is it? It's just like Earth. Vegetation, rain. I was talking with Gabe. Look here in black and white. What does it change? Hey, it lights up miles across the surface, guys. Okay? It's not a storm cloud, because it doesn't look like a storm cloud, but it's the best proof I've ever seen in the world on YouTube that there's aliens on the moon, or a being on the moon. It could be human, but there's still someone doing something up there. If these are natural phenomena that are occurring, can be, but it sure as hell is not something that they ever mentioned. So I bet you, if you watch the whole video through, do you even remember what I showed you at the beginning of the video? It's important you see those lights appearing on the surface. No one's ever showed them before. And I want everyone to hear me saying it, because I know it's going to come out in a couple of years. Without cutting the footage, I look for instant reactions, an interaction with an instant reply. Watch what happens when I ask them to impress me and fly away.
Do that. Take off, my friend. Impress us. Picking up speed. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Awesome.
Thanks so much, everyone, for taking the time to check out this channel. If you appreciate the research and appreciate the videos and, of course, this amazing community, please take the time to subscribe to the channel, and maybe a thumbs up and even clicking the bell. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Up there on the moon, they may be even coming right here soon. Aliens are mining on the moon, yes they are up there. Doesn't matter, cause disclosure's coming soon. Disclosure's coming soon.